Hi everyone, this is a video I've been contemplating making on because a few months back when I had made a video about water pollution related things, nothing came out of it. Not many people watched that video as well, and people likely ignored that video thinking it doesn't make sense. But there's a problem that I've been consistently finding in the Indian market with results regards to packaged goods of different kinds, and even goods that are not packaged, goods that are just simply food that is prepared in the Indian streets or hotels or restaurants for different groups of people in India who consume. India has a mass scale food industry currently that is thriving, but it is an industry that needs a revamp. And God has allowed something in Indian market that if it is not addressed in the right way, if right people are not hired, if right set of government regulations to a whole food supply chain related revamp needs to happen, and certain industries need to crash whereas certain other industries needs to come up instead to help with the crash of those industries that should be crashing right now. So in order to do that though, people have to first awaken to what is the problem, why a industry needs to crash, why a industry may not need to crash if the right steps are taken for it to not crash. What are the right steps that are needed, what are the kind of people you have to hire or personnel you have to hire to ensure that the industry doesn't crash. With regards to food industry, I've been having some food related challenges, so let's first talk about that to give you a context as to how or why I am claiming all these things. So in the last few years I have had some blood test done which has definitely proven that I had some beginning stages of organ damage. I had symptoms in my body also that indicated certain health challenges going on inside my body. I also had done tests that showed and proved cancer, pre-cancer, depending on how you look at my reports and how deeply you study and understand the conditions related to my reports. So because of all these combined things going on with my health, and also in the background before my health completely crashed in this level, I was also doing something called energy healing. That is a paradigm that is used by people who are wanting to energetically keep their body, mind, soul, health clean. So because of that also I attracted certain things in my life that led to now, because when you do either energy healing or you are a yoga pack practitioner or you meditate a lot regularly or you are a very good health and fitness expert in some way, then what will happen is these kind of population groups in India or globally will have a heightened sense of their sixth sense developing in their body depending on what kind of things are going on with them. So I got a heightened sixth sense develop in my body not because I'm a great energy healing practitioner, but it was part of the process. But the major reason why I was getting this heightened sixth sense ability of understanding what food groups or certain things might be harmful to our health, like when I'm doing this scratching again, God made me do this. The scratching is happening because if environmental pollution of microparticulate matter are there in the air of this place, I can easily detect it by the sense of touch as well. When my skin is getting irritated, it means there's some microparticulate matter of something that is harmful to the skin. Likewise, like how my skin is very sensitive, like that my nose and sense of smell also became very sensitive because I already have organ damage developing in the body. So because I already have organ damage developing in the body, my body now doesn't want me to consume or get attached or get what do you call absorb, like via skin. My body doesn't want me to absorb any particulate matter that could get absorbed by my skin. Via a sense of smell, the sense of smell is there for me to avoid now going in areas where maybe toxic gases or toxic microparticulate matter of something is there. The sense of smell also helps in detecting for us any food groups that might be really toxic for us to consume. Our body or health will not be able to digest it appropriately in the right way. So my one major organ damage indicator was that with my liver, two enzymes, main enzymes that liver has, both those enzyme levels were at a higher level. When those two enzymes are at a higher level, it is an initial indicator of some liver damage developing. Whether that damage will be a temporary damage or a permanent damage or a permanent organ system related issue will show up only eventually, depending on the time when that needs to show up as a damage for you. But because this damage is now developing slightly in my body, temporarily in my body, or long term, depending on multiple factors, because my health now has to stay safe, I cannot afford to have a constantly damaged liver. I've talked about liver toxicity related some issues in some of my previous videos, so that was also a personal experience for me. So when that liver toxicity is developing, at that time when the liver toxicity is developing or slowly building in the body will want to protect you from not now enhancing or adding to that toxicity. So how will my body now protect me from not getting that toxicity? Is by now allowing me a better sense of taste or smell or touch to, or even vision related sense, to understand what is now toxic and harmful for me. What is a vision related thing? It will tell me very simple thing, like if I today only I had a drink in which there were leaves that were there in that drink, and because those leaves were there in that drink, lemon slice was there in that drink, at that time any plant source that is there, I sometimes eat food also with salads in the food, and there also some leaves are usually there in our salads. In both, the reason why I'm focusing on the leaves is because I found that in recent times in the Indian market, things that are extracted from leaves or things that we consume that are made from leaves can have a health impact as well on our health. And vision wise, if I'm looking, like let's say as a woman, many women do this, but men also do this who are working in these fields that I address usually, and also those who are mindful people, they also do this. When you go out to go and now buy something, that you want to go and buy a vegetable for making your salad. Now if you're going and buying a vegetable to make your salad, should you be eating salads that have wilted leaves? Technically, if you are rich enough, you shouldn't be consuming wilted products at all. Anything that is wilted, anything that is, discolored in form, anything that may also, the discoloration is showing that that product is not healthy anymore. Like for us to consume a plant, any product actually, technically, if you look at ancient sciences related to all these, you will understand this better. But in the ancient sciences, they used to talk about any like if someone wants to eat fish, fresh fish that is just right now caught from the river, caught from the sea, and immediately cooked within a few hours, that is healthy. Similarly, fresh vegetables are healthy, that if it comes from a farm and it directly comes to you within a few hours, that is the healthiest food to consume. But the longer it takes for that food to come to you, or there are conditions while the food is being transported or the food is being stored in your home, there are home related conditions or transport related conditions that impact that food doesn't stay healthy anymore. It doesn't become as healthy. That's why only if you will see people who are awakening to better health paradigms, even in cities like Mumbai, I have heard and listened to stories of people who are doing organic farming in their rooftop of their homes, or a whole society in Mumbai has done this, that they have grown rooftop vegetable farming has been done by them, because those people were awakening to the fact that of the value of fresh vegetables. But this is something all of us have to awaken to, about fresh food, good food, both in terms of processed food, non-processed food, both. So this is a non-processed food. If I am buying some leaves for, if it's mint leaves for making mint chutney, or coriander leaves for making coriander mint chutney, or something that I'm adding to my summer refreshing drink and I want to add some leaves to it, or I want to add fresh slice of lemon to it, that drink remains a refreshing drink, or that salad or the chutney that I might be making. I could be eating with a paratha, I could be eating with a snack. Whatever I'm doing, that chutney remains fresh, the drink remains fresh. If I use lettuce leaves to my salads, or other kinds of different leaves are added to my salad, or other health, some people make healthy nutritious drinks also, green drinks they are called, which is made with a lot of vegetables and green leaves. All of these, if I actually want them to stay healthy for me and be actually healthy for me, they all need to be chemical free. They all need to be chemical free at multiple levels of work. And here in India, that is a concern, because I have found restaurants which are advertising that they have organic, it's an organic food restaurant. But even though it is an organic food supplying restaurant, if the organic farmer did all sorts of organic farming, which was indeed chemical free, but after the farmer has released the product to a retailer or some vendor who's now selling it to the restaurant, that vendor or retailer, if during their storage conditions or afterwards at the retailer's place while cooking and washing these vegetables, if you do not have chemical free water, if you do not use chemical free water for cooking them, making your drinks, if you do not use the right organic chemical free steps are kept in the entire process, from the farmer raising a plant to a person cooking it and then you are consuming it, or preparing the meal for you and then you are consuming it, or you yourself are preparing a meal for yourself and consuming it, at all of these time points, anywhere during this process, if chemicals are there in the farming to before consumption activities, those chemicals add to health harm as well, which is something everyone has to wake up to. So if your restaurant says organic farming based vegetables are used, but the vegetables that were bought from an organic farmer who's maybe doing 100% organic farming, no chemicals are there in his processes, but then the seller has done something to keep the vegetable looking fresh and they have sprinkled some water with some chemicals, then that vegetable, that leaf is not organic anymore. This is something I found with coriander leaves in the past, that coriander was looking fresh like, but actually it was not fresh. If you have a good sense of now vision, you will also see in the past when you actually had real fresh good looking coriander leaves, those coriander leaves were lighter in color, they had a particular green color to them, that those coriander leaves which body form wise looks fresh, but because some chemicals have been sprayed on them or they were soaked in some chemical water, taste wise also they will not be fresh, taste wise they will be unhealthy, as well as just form wise it looks as if it's fresh, but the green color of it is only going to be a color of green that is not fresh. So that is just by vision you can tell when your food is artificially getting something on it that is harmful, that is going to be harmful for you. Especially with leaves, it's much more easier to understand because leaves are usually directly consumed. Most leaves are either directly consumed, they are crushed or made into a paste for your curries and things like that. So that's why with the leaves it's the most very evident thing, and leaves are flatter in structure also. So any kind of chemical that will be there in the leaf will be a higher content of chemical on it because they are flatter in structure. Whereas let's say there is now a tomato also which has also been grown in the same farm where the leaf is growing, or been cooked and prepared in the same way by the retailer, the transportation is similar, or the cook who is cooking it is also using chemical based practices, then the leaf will have more chemicals. Because let's say someone uses vegetable washes, there's a vegetable wash market that has come up which I find very highly ridiculous, because most vegetable washes that I have found in the market are health unsafe. They are health unsafe because people haven't studied it adequately to actually determine its safety level. And all testing that is done currently about food needs to have a complete revamp currently in this century, because what earlier used to be considered as safe was based on just one drop use, one little minor exposure to that thing. But the reality is, if we are continuously being exposed to that chemical every day or for a long time or for multiple times in a year, then heightened toxicity can develop in your body depending on the heightened levels of chemicals your body is getting exposed to. So all these people working in my industry, while pharma and chemical food related industries are going to crash. Which industries are going to crash? Those industries who are not looking into these things. If you are looking into these things, if you are actively working on these things, you will not crash. And if you're looking towards solving the problem in the right way than checking it in a wrong way, because for those vegetable vendors who were wanting that their coriander doesn't wilt away, they decided, if I soak it in this chemical, it looks fresh, I can sell it. And they made a short-term profit out of it as well. But eventually, you would see, at least I stopped buying only coriander for a while. I have stopped eating coriander chutneys also for a while, especially because the coriander was so horrible, so horrible. It was making me so sick. I decided I'm not going to consume this product anymore. So I literally stopped, even though coriander was one of my most favorite things to consume for a long time. There was a gap of 5-6 years that I have hardly consumed any coriander in my food. And if I do consume coriander in my food, if it is really coming from a farm or kitchen who have done really good health supportive measures to keep the coriander fresh, then I enjoy eating that coriander. But if they have not done it, it looks horrible, it tastes horrible, it is bad for your health because of the chemical soaking that has happened to it. So this is just simply related to coriander. But like that, with lettuce I have found, even though maybe organic farming tag is coming with the lettuce, I don't know, there are a few restaurants that I have tried in recent years where lettuce was part of their menu, and in all of these restaurants, only 1 or 2 restaurants said they are doing organic farming related practices. The other restaurants were not saying that. So maybe they were doing it, were not doing organic farming. But what is happening is, the lettuce farmer, who is now, lettuce is also very watery vegetable. So watery vegetable and a leafy thing, right? So it has both the leaf and water content in it, was very chemically laced. I have found for multiple lettuce related consumption, and my body somehow, even though I love the taste of lettuce, when the lettuce is very much chemically laced, I just can't consume those lettuce. And you will see also, the ones which are more chemically laced will wilt out sooner, will get destroyed sooner also. So, and people who have now mislabeled organic farming, that kind of practice also goes on. Mislabeled meaning they don't understand the real principle between organic label. Organic label's real principle is, you have to have chemical free farming, very fresh, clean, earth has to be there, water has to be there, every level of farming has to be clean and fresh and free of any artificial chemical usages. But some farmers, they might decide that in the organic, in the farming that is labeled as these pesticides are supposed to not be used, they just look at the legal regulations at the bare minimum level. So the legal regulation says that these 10 or 30 pesticides can't be used in this state to get the label of organic farming. They will not use those 30 pesticides. That because if you use those 30 pesticides, you will not be given the organic farming label certification. But they will say that I'm not using these 30 pesticides. But because they are so used to using chemicals in their farming, instead of those 30 pesticides, there is a 30th pesticide or 31st pesticide that they will be using that is currently not listed in a government of that state, that this is, this is also comes under, if you use this chemical, you will lose your certification. So they will be arguing about useless stuff like that. That they will use chemicals that are just not there in the 30 things that the government has listed or the FDA has listed, that these are the 30 chemicals you can't use. But that is if there are farmers who are doing this, who are wanting to skirt the issue and they are still using chemicals in their farming, these farmers also need to be looked at. Not just farmers, there are farmers who could be doing it, retailers who could be doing it, cooks and chefs in the kitchen who could be doing it, all of these regulatory changes has to happen globally, because how many labels are you going to create? Because in US this already happened when organic label was being misused and misapplied and all sorts of nonsense was going on with it. Then they started getting more and more certification about chemical free, hormone free, this free, that free. You can't keep adding this 10 regulations to it. Look at the principle, and the principle should be applied now by all legal systems, regulatory systems, rather than skirting the issue. Because when I as a customer wants a organic labeled food, or a organic labeled drink, or a organic labeled cosmetic, I want a cosmetic which doesn't have artificial chemicals, which doesn't have the chemicals that are already known to be harmful to humanity, which already a lot of data exists for certain chemicals, that people know that these chemicals, if used for long term, will lead to harm. If that kind of data already exists about a product, that should automatically exclude you from using that product. And anyone creating a product, farming a product, making a cosmetic, making a drink, should be looking into all that things if they really want. That is the job of that person, not someone to sit and educate. Of course, an educator is needed, but after the educator has given the knowledge, like there are multiple scientists globally who have done a lot of research work about what is actually harmful to health. But if you don't sit and believe those researchers, or after believing those researchers also, if you continue doing practices where just because my government says 30 of these chemicals are only the ones I shouldn't be using, but I can still use the other 30, you are doing something wrong there, principally and as well as practically, as well as legally, you are doing something wrong. And there should be a legal room for finding these people who are not understanding or who are not ready to wake up to why organic farming is needed. We can't afford a very sick earth currently because of billions of human beings on earth. So there's only two ways the earth will go: either out of the billion people, like how in the past, centuries, epidemics happened and a major population of earth got wiped out. That is also a possibility even now. People think that just because they have stemmed the coronavirus, that they have stemmed the epidemic from happening. That's a false paradigm. Already many symptoms and steps related to epidemics and pandemics still exist on earth right now, which will unfold on earth given the conditions humans support on earth. If humans support health supportive conditions and align back towards good health, balancing their health, understanding what is real good health, then epidemics and pandemics will not unfold in the future also. But if humans don't align back, then that epidemics and pandemics are a natural consequence of what is not getting aligned back towards good health. This is something people don't understand principally, or they need a lot of data to understand it. But a lot of data already exists about past epidemics and pandemics. You go and research their history and actually look at the data related to those epidemics and pandemics. You will actually get a very good idea about what is unfolding even now. But for that, you have to wake up and you have to understand. In the past also, to make a quick buck, in order to make the maximum buck possible, in order to show on paper that you are a lakpati operating a lakpati business, or a crorepati operating a crorepati business, or you just simply want to make the maximum profit out of your profession, everyone who thinks like that in any profession ends up being the part of the population group who is adding to epidemic problem, health challenges, bad policies in any business, in any industry, that then causes that industry, or definitely their company will fail. That is inevitable. But while on paper they could be looking very successful, but they are actually failing in the principal level, at the background level, and failing at a level which will add to other challenges in their future, and people who worked with them, their future as well. So which unfolds eventually. Time always tells where the problem was. Even if people don't believe, if someone is there, like you work in a company where a problem is happening, maybe 10% of the people working in that company know problem is happening, but if other 90% are asleep and not ready to believe the 10% who know what is going to happen next, because that is the next trajectory of that thing, your denial of the 90% of the people that this is going to happen is not going to stop something that is inevitable from unfolding. The only time something that is inevitable will not become inevitable is when you understood from the 10% this is inevitable if we do continue in XYZ paradigm. It is not inevitable when we start doing the things that are opposite of X, opposite of Y, opposite of Z, and also start taking measures that whatever harm was caused by XYZ paradigm, that harm is also mitigated. Then only the repercussions related to XYZ won't occur. And then if XYZ was leading to a lot of harm and you've started taking measures to not go towards the XYZ related harm, the place where maximum changes were made, maximum right and alignment based changes were made, that place sees the most success. Whereas the place where some moderate changes were made or very minimal changes were made, there the success will not happen, or very too late changes were made, then you can't stop the XYZ related repercussions from falling, because the changes made were very at the tail end when already the crash was about to happen. At that time you can't do anything. So there's always a time and a place for changes to be made, appropriate changes, and a level of appropriate changes have to be made. So in the level of appropriate changes only, those people who are awakening to the importance of organic farming, they have this job now that once you're doing it in your own projects or doing it for other people or selling it to other people, you have to have that conscientiousness to understand which business am I selling this product to. If that business is not going to keep it organic, should I be selling it to that business? Because while you have had the organic label certification, you are doing everything to keep it organic, but other people are not. That is a problem. If other farmers around you, they are pretending to be organic because it's a pretense of being organic, doing organic farming. If while doing that farming, you not only are not using the 30 that is listed by your state as chemicals that shouldn't be used to get a organic farming certification, but you have been conscientious enough to not use any chemicals because you understand the principle of organic farming the right way. So you have been keeping, you are the only farmer in that area who is doing that, whereas there are other 30 farmers who are possibly around you in that same area who are doing farming where they are not only just looking at the list, they are just looking at the list and they are still adding other chemicals. So that will do what? That will ruin your crops as well, because all farming activities are close by. So if anyone is spraying anything in the air, it can go into organic farmer's field. Anyone is spraying anything in the water, it can go into another person's field. Even if you add something to your soil, again, you know, that chemical can go into the field of the next farmer when rains happen or other water flow, airflow related challenges happen. Wind can, you know, blow the soil from one farmer to the other. So that's why only it's very important when you're doing also organic farming, do it with the right group, do it in a right place. If you have realized you're doing it in a place where organic farming conditions, health supportive conditions are not present, think about moving your farming practices. All of these things also people have to start realizing to keep, and this is just at the farmer level I'm telling, which is the first level. But like this, there's the farmer level work that has to be done, the retailer level work has to be done, the restaurant level work has to be done, the chef level work has to be done, a homemaker level work has to be done, work of the person who is going and procuring these vegetables, their work and education has to be at the optimum level. All of these are places where change needs to happen currently on earth. And this thing related to just vegetables that I'm talking about now, with the when farming is happening and spraying is happening in the leaves, the impact of it immediately shows up in the leaves and barks of a tree. But it doesn't mean that those fruits and nuts that we consume from a tree, they also don't show it, or vegetables we are consuming, they are not going to show the impact of the chemicals used. They also show an impact, and on a earth where less chemicals were being used, the impact was only in the skin surface level of a mango or of a tomato, or so if we washed those vegetables, that was enough. But right now we are at that state of earthly existence where the chemicals have now penetrated the plant and are impacting the overall health of the plant. So many plants, if raised in soil conditions and atmosphere and environment conditions where something really toxic is happening, even plants, like I recently consumed some pineapples, and those pineapples, while I love to consume pineapples, and most of the time there is a little bit of itching that I get occasionally from pineapples when you have a little bit of the prickly pines of the pineapple, those prickly parts of the pineapple. If my tongue touched those areas, I would get tongue related irritation. But in order to prevent myself from not getting those tongue related irritation, there are two ways that I have been taught and I have practiced most of the time. First is, of course, you clean up the pineapple so that those prickly things don't remain in the pineapple. Secondly, even if small black speck used to remain in the pineapples after it has been cut, I am always careful about biting that black part off from my teeth, by my teeth, so that I don't swallow those black particles. So that is one way I prevent myself from getting any irritation, biting off from the prickliness. Second thing I do is, sometimes you soak it in salt water or have a salty pineapple, sprinkle some salt on the pineapple. That also prevents our tongue from getting irritated when the prickliness is there and a little bit of the prickliness has touched our tongue or lips. And most of the time when the pineapple is the source, like very minor level irritation was there from the pineapple, it's only our tongue that will get irritated. But nowadays, in recent times, because this is a natural consequence of earth pollution, because earth pollution has increased, because the farming related conditions are increasingly leading to more and more harm developing in the soil, in the air, in the water of the place where these farmings are going on, as well as from when the pineapple is getting transported, at that time also some other chemical exposures will be there. So if the pineapple is still in and the pineapple fruit, what is happening is the plant is now starting to develop resistance or irritation to what is harmful for it. As a result, some of the pineapples that I have consumed in recent times, I found them to be very irritating despite taking all these precautions related to salt, related to biting off even the black particles of the pine cones areas. Even then, the rest of the pineapple that used to taste really well, that didn't used to give any health harm, nowadays the rest of the pineapples are releasing some enzymes which are very irritating to my lips and tongue both, which is happening because now, and anyone who's doing some analysis on all these plant like a plant botanist or a pharmacognosist, they can look into these avenues of research where they will see if they have really clean organic farming going on somewhere and a chemical based farming going on somewhere else, and if they compare both of those pineapples, they will see that possibly some chemicals and enzymes are higher in those pineapples that are growing in really bad chemically polluted areas. Because these irritating chemicals are the chemicals. Right now I'm only getting tongue irritation and skin irritation around the lips, but if that chemical content is really high, or if I am at a heightened allergic state, or I'm someone who is a person who has heightened allergies constantly, for that kind of a person, it can lead to something called anaphylaxis or allergic hypersensitivity reaction, both of which can also lead to someone's death just from simply eating a fruit like pineapple. And I've observed it about pineapple, but it's not just, or I'm telling about pineapple because it's very easy to explain it about pineapple, but there are many other fruits and vegetables in the Indian market that have this problem. I found this with mangoes also. Mangoes were my favorite fruit to consume for a long time. Even now I would love to consume mangoes, but in the last 5 years I've hardly consumed any mangoes, especially because I'm not, every time I'm even buying mangoes from a retailer, they are such crappy mangoes, such poor quality, such rotten mangoes that my body immediately rejects wanting to consume those mangoes. Like I've bought mangoes, they're just rotten at the home and then I have thrown away, simply because they look, only the look of it is really bad, showing that some poor health is going on. The texture of it is really bad, showing poor health is going on. Sometimes the taste or the gum coming out of it, the gum from a mango is also an indicator of when the mango is in a heightened chemical distress, or the squishiness of the mango. Mangoes should have a particular kind of texture to them. and that the raw mango will have a particular raw mango texture, ripe mango will have a ripe mango texture, and a overripe mango will have a overripe mango texture. But if you have a green raw mango having the texture of a ripe mango or a overripe mango, there is a problem with it. And these things people have to understand if you want to go towards a good earth, clean earth and clean health. If you don't want to go towards it, and we can keep ignoring these things, and you will go towards the choice you are making regarding earth, regarding your health, regarding the work you do, related to the work, related to simply a mango farmer's mango coming to my home, because everyone in the supply chain process has to make the relevant changes to make this problem understandable at a from the groundwork level to the level when it comes to my home. And anyone who doesn't understand it or isn't ready to solve it in the right way then adds to the harm related to that product. And that this part that I've talked about here, I will possibly explain related to mangoes in a next post, because there's a whole lot of things I can talk about simply about mangoes. But this post is generally about bad food quality in our market. Now with mangoes have already started coming up in March time in the market. In March time, the mangoes that should be coming up in the market should be only raw mangoes. No ripe mango should be coming up in the market if the mangoes were naturally farmed. Okay, but why are ripe mangoes coming? Either ripe mangoes are coming from an even more hotter place than India, or those ripe mangoes are also coming from last year's mango sources, or a lot of chemicals have been added to the mango to ripen it sooner. All of which is health harming at different levels and in different ways, which needs to be explored, understood, in order for people to stop consuming off season products. In these on season off season thing, because I was raised in a problem filled family, I didn't learn it when I was in my 20s or in my 30s, but post cancer I have started learning it, or before cancer I had learned it very briefly from my ex-in-laws, where I understood that yeah, my knowledge about what is ripe food, what is good food, what is health supportive food is very off, because I have lived all my life in a city where and also existed in a family where no one has taken the time to teach me about these things. So I had to learn after that divorce in the last 10 years, slowly. Previous to cancer, I was trying to learn it based on just my body's needs about what is nutritionally supportive for my body. After I started developing cancer or organ damage, or maybe one or the other, whatever is going on with my health, because it's again, I know what is going on, I can tell you, but if the data doesn't exist for you to feel convinced that I have that disease, I can't do anything about it. That's why I say this or that. That doesn't mean that I have this or that. It just means it's up to you to believe what I'm saying. You can believe it or disbelieve it. But definitely organ damage related data is concrete data that I have, or organ damage developing data is concrete. The other data that is also concreted, pre-cancer data, is also very concrete. The gray zone data is a data where I have interpreted my data to know that it has cancer elements. Other people may not interpret it depending on their level of ignorance or understanding or lack of depth in the understanding of my situation related to that data. At that time, they will not believe it, or they will not consider it to be a cancer condition, or might consider it to be a pre-cancer. I don't know what they will do. But that's why I have to say this or clarification regarding the cancer elements. And anyways, so the main thing is, but because I have these diseases, my insights have to be sharpened. My intuition has sharpened, because I already have something which, if I don't have sharpened intuition, if I could keep consuming mangoes filled with chemicals, or fruits filled with chemicals, or vegetables filled with chemicals, or any other products filled with chemicals or microbes, my health will deteriorate. So like with the chemicals, my eyes can tell something, my nose can also, my nose sense of smell has also sharpened. So the lettuce related thing, sometimes you can't tell from a lettuce whether it is chemically infused. But because I have a good sense of smell, my sense of smell tells me there's some chemical in this lettuce I shouldn't consume. Because some products, via just eyes, you can detect whether it's harmful. And then it's a skill you have to develop. Those people who develop these skills or become mindful about it they know what is a good product, what is a bad product. There are people who don't develop that skill, they will just consume whatever. But they can consume whatever because they may have a lot of resilience in their body or extra strength in their body for them to not fall sick. Whereas I can't afford to fall sick. If I fall sick, there's no one in my home who is going to take care of my health. So for me, having that knowledge is important so that I don't have to fall back on other people for my health support. So where I can support, and God always gives you that thing that what you can do for yourself, you need to do for yourself. But what I'm doing for myself, I also want other people to understand this so that they can also start doing it for themselves, and so that everyone who understands this can start now then working towards the level of work you have to do related to the field of work associated with these topics, because this will determine your karma also. Like your difficult life experiences are supposed to determine your karma as well, or your future life purpose as well, related to what you learned from that challenge and how, or anyone else's challenge, and how you are applying it then in your life to help yourself and other people. That is the whole purpose of some difficulties or some challenges, or even some benefits some people have. Like I have this, if I have this knowledge that the chemical, there is a chemical infused lettuce I'm consuming. If I have that knowledge, I tell it to 10 people. If other 10 people get aware, or they don't have that sense of smell, but they now start understanding that there is a reason why maybe their body doesn't want them to eat lettuce, that is also a benefit. Because there are many people, while I am talking like this, there are many kids who are born in this century who have come with heightened sense of understanding of what they shouldn't consume. So I have seen videos of mothers where the mother wants the child to eat apple slices or fruits or vegetables that are considered to be healthy, but the child is saying no to it, they don't want to consume it. Mother is assuming, many mothers assume that they think like if I give them samosas and pakoras and fried food, my child will easily consume that. But my child doesn't consume these healthy food. So my child has a bad practice of not wanting to consume healthy food. So many mothers can assume that about their children, whereas the truth might be somewhere in between, that it is possible that yes, the child might enjoy eating more sugary foods, more salty foods and everything, but there's usually a reason behind it. If you have seen some Ayurveda or nutritionist doctors posts online, you will see many of those Ayurveda practitioners, nutritionist practitioners, other doctors who are posting informative, real true informative posts about health online and social media. Many of them, some of them are posting some false information also, but many who are really doing good work, they are also educating about what deficiency you have when your body is craving something. So someone craving certain things, certain salty things or certain sugary things, is indicative of some nutritional challenge also of that person. So that's why your child might be preferring a samosa over an apple. But other than just the nutritional element, I'll tell you, my body has craved samosas over an apple also in those situations where if the samosa ingredients were all good quality ingredients, all healthy ingredients, I did need the carbohydrates from it, I needed the fat from it, I needed whatever ingredients that samosa had. At that time, the samosa is better for my health than consuming an apple. When the apple, while the samosa is giving me a lot of carbs and fat and spices and other things that I need, the apple might have been raised in a farm laced with a lot of chemicals, or the apple may have some chemicals in it that are or the apple might have rotted away. Whatever is going on with the apple, if I consume that apple, my health will also rot away. Because if fruit ripening agents have been added to the apple, that ripener, when I consume along with the apple, the microscopic amount of ripener which my body is not able to tell me, and if it is a 5-year-old, 4-year-old child, even their body is not able to tell them logically what is wrong with the product. But intuitively, if God has given them that power to tell, to reject it, the reason why the child is rejecting it is because intuitively they know something is off with this. Like if I eat it, maybe, their stomach is hurting. And it's a small child, so, and also many children are, not all children are always whiny and crying, many children are very adjusting children. They adjust to their parents as well, many children. So if they see their mother is busy, and if this is they really have a good child, that child is not going to complain that mummy, I ate the apple and my stomach is hurting. Or even if the child said it, if the mummy is not believing, if the mummy is a liar, she's and a manipulator, she will not believe the child. She'll think that I also lie sometimes to my husband about a fake stomach ache, so maybe my child is lying. So this is also another reason why people need to start understanding authenticity. Or if there's a couple where the wife lies a lot of manipulates a lot of situations to gain fake sympathy, and the husband doesn't do it, their child has actually, and it is their biological child, the child has characteristics of both parents. So the child may be sometimes lying about fake stomach ache, but many a times the child could possibly be saying the truth also. Opposite thing can also happen. If the father is always lying to the mother and manipulating situations, the father will not believe the child that because they manipulate a lot, he will think that, oh, I am always manipulating to get sympathy from my wife, so my child is also doing that. They will assume it, whereas it's very highly likely that the child may not be doing it. Especially if your child is not even your biological child, if it is an adopted child, that child even less likely to do these things, because that child doesn't even have your genes. Some personality traits they will pick up later on in life, after 10-20 years of being with you. But in the initial baby years or toddler years, whatever the child is doing is its inherent nature or inherent quality. So in that time, when the child is saying, I don't want to eat and it's causing my stomach problem, or the child is crying, I don't really want to eat it, you should be listening to that child, because the child might have a heightened idea about what is harmful. And you should also not be consuming that apple that is rotten. It's just that the child gets a better idea about it because the child is smaller in size. Another problem with apple, the reason why I was guided to speak about apples is because this data also exists that the seeds of apple are very harmful and toxic to health. And I have found in certain apple juices in recent years in the Indian market, where the apple juices taste highly toxic. And here I feel it is not an inadvertent thing that is happening. I feel deliberate toxins have been introduced into those apples, and people are doing it to pretend as if inadvertent harm has happened, that accidentally one seed of apple seed might have gotten into the mixture of a batch of apple juice. But if it is consistently happening, or happening in a pattern where it is not possible for a random act to cause that apple seed to be in the juice, or a mass amount of toxicity is present in that juice, or consistently in many batches it is happening, that means usually some deliberate harm is being done. So these are also the things that FDA related, regulations related, law related changes have to happen. Those places need to hire more people to examine these things, because while apple manufacturing industry might shut down, the people who can work in those industries and who do understand where toxicity can happen, where deliberate toxicity can be introduced, where deliberate harm can be introduced, those kind of people can always be valuable, even if they leave that job and go into more of a regulatory job, more into a government job, but the government needs to start. When economy is going down in the private sector, governments of any countries can start increasing the government jobs to help the economy stabilize. That is also something many governments need to start doing, I feel, in this century, because this is the century where we can learn from our past mistakes of the Great Depression eras, of the pandemic eras, and other war eras, to understand from that mistake what needs to be rectified, changed, shifted in this century. And then this is related to deliberate introduction of certain things, so which leads me to the next deliberate thing that I have found in the Indian market, or in the Navi Mumbai market especially. One was, I said that I found parasite in the water contaminations, parasite related water contaminations in the water in the train areas, or in West Bengal, or in Navi Mumbai. Some of the water bottles used to have these parasite contaminations. But now I have also found these parasite contaminations in baked goods as well. And this can now happen from two levels. Like, let's say someone wants to use clean water, but they don't have a clean filtration device to use filtered water. So they are relying that the bottled water that is coming in the market is clean. So they are using the bottled water to make, like let's say there's a street vendor who wants to sell samosa. They don't have a filtration system in their homes, but because they don't have maybe electricity access, or even if they have electricity, they don't have that much money to buy a filtration device, or whatever filtration device they have is a RO device. RO device also, if there is parasites in your local water, RO device will not may take off some of the higher amounts of toxins from your environment, but whether it will take off high amounts of deliberately introduced toxins, or whether microscopic the babies of parasites could still be remaining in that RO water, or the filter water that I'm getting from any brand that is selling me filter bottled water. If their filtration device doesn't account for the level of toxins of that environment where the water is being processed, then at a time some toxins might still be remaining. Plus, if deliberate introduction of toxin has happened, then also some toxins might still be there in your water. But people, if all of us assume our filter water or bottled water is clean, and we're using that filter and bottled water to make something, like I have found parasites to be present in not just bottled water, but it's also present in the pav in the market. It's also present in veg puffs, those pastries and things, the puffy pastry like products also in our market. I've also found it in the basin that is used for making our vada pavs or other things. So many foods which use some little bit of baking powder in it, or water that is contaminated in it, or any other ingredient that is contaminated. And I felt the yeast was getting contaminated by parasites, because if I go and buy from the market a packet of yeast, do I actually know how yeast looks like? No, because yeast is microscopic in nature, and even if that product might have 99% yeast, but all it takes to poison someone is very little things are needed to poison anyone. So, and I understand this very well, because in my family this has happened to people in the past who were poisoned by a very microscopic, very little subtle things. So as a result, a little bit of they could have put, anyone who wants to deliberately now contaminate a yeast batch, they could have introduced a little bit of parasites in it as well. And that small parasite only that has gone in one batch can continue, because the yeast factory continues to make that factory's yeast again and again from a base source. It is very easy now from one have you watched the movie of, who's the actress, Kate Winslet? Kate Winslet is the only one I'm remembering from that movie right now. It's called Contact, and I'll link the movie here with this post. In that movie, Contact or Contagion, one of this is the name of the movie. There actually a contagious bacteria got transmitted via just contact throughout the globe, and a pandemic like situation or a epidemic like situation unfolded in that movie. But that is the same thing true of any biological warfare. It's very easy to introduce biological warfare related things, or just corporate espionage related things in other competitors things, when people have developed antisocial personality skills, and they don't realize that by sabotaging another, you are sabotaging your own industry at some level. So some people can do it to sabotage another's business. Some people can do it because they don't get paid enough and they just want extra money to do all this. Some people could do it for whatever reason you're doing it. The problem is food in our Indian market right now is contaminated at different levels, and I have seen these contaminations are happening sometimes during festival times, sometimes during not just festival times. And in the festival times, there is another trend usually that bad quality products also get released. So something that would be rejected by the market when good conditions are existing, they need to be destroyed now. And those kind of destruction related steps have also not been created by any country. That many countries will reject a product, will say that I don't want entry of this product in my market via imports and exports. So if someone is importing something from India, they can say I do not want to import this. Someone is importing something from China, they can say I don't want to import this. They have said I don't want to import it, and it didn't get imported now because you found that this product was toxic for some reason, like how I have described here. And this has happened, like for example in European country, but there was one European country that rejected certain clothing products. There was another European country that rejected wheat from India. But what happened to that wheat? There was wheat also, there was some fungus found in one European country which rejected it, and refuse the import of that wheat, Indian government's job, as well as that place's government's job, and other government policies also in the neighboring states between that country and our country, because many exports can go via land, many go via air, many go via shipments. So while you have rejected it, there could be shipments in some a sea shipment could have been arriving in that country, or an air shipment could have been arriving, or a land shipment could have been arriving, all of which has been blocked from entering that country. But they can still, the problem right now on earth is people don't understand how to handle failures. So as soon as a business is said that their 1 lakh, 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 30 lakh worth of wheat is getting rejected by X government, that business, rather than working on what do I do so that this fungus doesn't grow and come in my market, they haven't worked on that. Instead, what they would have done is they would have sit in, and it has happened that those same products that were rejected now in by a European country probably went to its neighbors, or in that European country only it went into the black market of that European country, and it also went into the black market of the source from which it has come. So if it was shipped from India, it came to India. If it was shipped from Pakistan, it went to Pakistan. If it was shipped from China, it went to China. And it is possible Pakistan, India, China all were having that fungus. It was detected in Indian material and it came in the news that India's wheat had it. But it is also very possible that wheat from Punjab is a country state in India, which there's Punjab also in Pakistan. So that wheat that came from Punjab in India could have also come from Punjab in Pakistan as well. Now if that country doesn't understand that there is Punjab in India and Punjab in Pakistan, and that wheat from both these places could have same problem because they're neighboring countries, neighboring places. So that wheat that is growing in India with some fungus can also be coming from Punjab, Pakistan with that same fungus, or any one in that same tropical or temperate climate zone belt, that same belt, climate zone belt of India and Pakistan, that same kind of repeat weather like conditions if existing in other countries of the world with similar temperature, humidity and other conditions, other farming related conditions, if they are all consistently the same type, even this can arise, that fungus can possibly grow even in another country with similar climate zones. So actually speaking, this is the depth of work people globally have to do about that fungus in order to not have that fungus in your food. But if you don't do that, what ended up happening according to me is that fungus, while it was rejected by that one country, other countries didn't reject it, other countries didn't know how to reject it appropriately. The original supply, there is no rule and regulation to now understand that if lakhs and lakhs of something has been rotten, what do you do about it? There's no regulatory insight, foresight, hindsight, nothing is happening related to all this. And few years after that product was rejected in a foreign country, I found fungus laced baked goods in Kolkata and Mumbai both, where some even now I have found fungus laced baked goods. The fungus that is mold like fungus that can happen while baking, while farming, and the fungus which is unusual fungus to be found in a baked good, that can only be the kind of fungus which has been deliberately introduced inside a product. Both are happening currently, have happened currently in India in the last few years. So some deliberate fungal contaminations have also happened, and then again when some testing is done, everyone can categorize both as fungus, but one is a mold which is naturally occurring, one could be a fungus which has been artificially introduced. These differences also now regulatory authorities need to examine, where deliberate introduction was done, where inadvertent accidental introduction has happened, what to do to prevent the inadvertent accidental introduction. There is a deep set of steps that people have to do in the supply chain. What is to be done to account for the deliberate? For the deliberate introduction, you have to create economies and legal systems and regulations where accountability has to happen, where people are deliberately ready to harm another. So those kind of things also need to come. And then with the parasites, so these parasites I feel are falsely introduced in the market, because Mumbai is a very clean state. So here having parasitic infusion in if parasites were found in a place where, like in West Bengal, if I find parasites in the food or water, it makes sense because West Bengal has very low hygiene maintenance conditions for certain segments of population who are really really poor. They don't have good places for their hygiene and maintenance. So in those areas, if I find parasites introduced in their water, in their air, or in their food, it is a natural consequence. Mumbai is not a city like that. In Mumbai also, if I found it in the, let's say, slum like area of Mumbai, where from slum some water is coming, or not just slum like area, but really like a garbage dumping area from where something is coming, or near the garbage dumping area something is coming, I will believe that it was a accidental pollution. But Mumbai is a very clean city. Mumbai, Navi Mumbai are very clean city. People living in Mumbai, Navi Mumbai are very conscientious people, hardworking people who do conscientious work to maintain cleanliness of various levels. So when that is happening in a city like Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, where kind of work ethics that goes in place with Mumbai, Navi Mumbai doesn't match the contamination that is going on here, that means it's a deliberately introduced contamination only. It can't be a inadvertent contamination, so or accidental contamination. So which is where now, because it is not an accidental contamination, that needs to be investigated. And also people need to have this, if this contamination is there, you may believe it, you may not believe it, but if it is actually there in any part of India where some fungus is there in your food, in your wheat products, or some parasite is there in your baking powder or yeast, because baking goods, I have found this to be a problem. So the three sources from where in the baking goods this has happened, the parasite contamination, is either from the water that was used for mixing the baking good, or the baking powder was contaminated, because I found I use baking powder for some other non-baking purposes, and I have found the problem with the baking powder sometimes. And then and I didn't find it with just baking. And the third place where instead of the baking powder this can happen is the yeast itself, if you use yeast for rising of your dough. But if you don't use yeast, or you have had a past batch of yeast, anyone who wants to bake something and is thinking of contemplating on buying some new batch of yeast, please don't buy it. Whatever you have in the past only, try to use that past yeast only to look at recipes of sourdough bread. Sourdough bread recipes might be helpful for you to understand how to make bread which is savory in taste without continuously adding yeast to your material. So that could be helpful. Secondly, our Indian atmosphere already has a lot of mold. So mold also can help in rising and fermentation activities naturally. So you do not need to add any additional yeast anymore in any of your baked products if that product rises by itself. Even the baking soda that you use in your food, try to minimize using the baking soda, or hire someone or an animal who has good instinct and sense of smell, because this is something I actually found to be very funny and very cute as well. That I went and bought some vada pav, and I was eating the vada pav, and part of it I could smell something off is there, but part of the product being overbaked, my sense of smell couldn't detect the parasite in it. But who detected it? There were some cats who were around me, stray cats. They came to eat what I was eating. So I gave them a little bit of, tore a little bit of the pav and gave it to them. They didn't eat that pav. So then I was like, why are they not eating the pav? I'm not finding any smell in the pav. Let me focus a little bit more into the pav. So I focused in the pav, and then I understood that yes, I can now smell because it was overbaked, what has happened is the parasite has got also overbaked. So I could then detect very mild smell of parasite in it. So I threw away that pav, I threw away whatever was smelling off in the garbage. But I understood the cat, now being a smaller cat in size, like I am 60 plus kgs in weight, that cat is not even 2 kgs in weight possibly, or 1 kg in weight. So that cat, who is not even 1 kg in weight, obviously has more danger if it eats parasites. So that cat has a heightened sense of smell to tell me when a product is contaminated. So if you have pets like that, you can train also cats and dogs for giving you these heightened They can be trained by FDA and regulatory authorities to help us determine what is harmful. Secondly, humans also who have this heightened sense of smell could also be hired. Like blind people will have good sense of smell and taste, so those people who are blind, they can also be hired for this, because when you are blind or when you are really really sick, those people can have heightened. I'm not saying every blind person will have it, or every sick person will have this, or every animal will can be trainable. So there also you have to, like how with human resources you detect who is good for the job, these are the groups of people who could be hired for this work, but whether they will be good for that job or not depends on the skills they have. If someone could be blind and they could detect possibly sometimes some things related to what is bad for health, but only when they have honed that skill, they are ready to use that skill, they understand the purpose of their blindness, then that person will be really good with some job like this. So I hope this made sense, and I know it was a diverse topic I discussed here, but this is how I go. I somehow go from one topic to multiple topics that are interconnected in my mind and interrelated. But people, now if you have a pet or a child, your pet also could be rejecting eating something that you've baked. Don't take it personally, and that is also something that people need to address. Many women or men, I have bought this lovingly for my child, why is my child not eating this veg puff? Maybe the child is not eating because they can detect the parasite in it that you can't detect. So understand why, if you get my information and your child is refusing something that they don't want to eat, or they're crying that I don't want to eat it, don't take it as a tantrum. Very few kids of this generation, I feel, are tantrum led kids. Very like maybe 5% or 1% of the kids out there in the world are actually real tantrums. Most kids that I have observed don't throw tantrums. They are very wise kids or nice kids, and I am not saying that tantrum led kids are not there, but those kids will be in those families where they have extremely comfortable conditions and they are very spoiled by everyone in the family. That kid might be very tantrum led, but those kids who are not spoiled by their family, or are not the apple of the eye in their family, or they are just of a sensitive nature, those kids will are supposed to be helping lead you towards what is good health. So at that time, yes, it is really painful to throw away food. I also find it very painful to throw away food just like that. But if it is health harming than health beneficial, you have to throw away. Not only throw away, if you are working in a field where you can do something about this work, do that work. Like if you are a researcher, you can do the research work related to it. If you are a government official, you can work with other government officials to change the paradigm related to regulations that need to change to address these issues. If you are in the government, do some government level activities. If you are in the legal system, do legal system activities. If you are a cook, you become a mindful cook. If you are a housewife, you become a mindful housewife. You are a doting grandmother, and you have observed your grandson doesn't want to eat a particular kind of food group. Understand why your grandson or granddaughter is saying no to it, and it might benefit also the grandparent, because when you are in the extreme ends of age, the one who's a 2-year-old child and a 70-year-old grandmother or grandfather, both of them may end up having similar kind of health issues consuming products that are health harming. It's just that a 70-year-old grandmother grandfather will show a different kind of symptom, whereas a 2-year-old 5-year-old child will show a different kind of symptom, because they both have slightly different biochemistries, biologies, exposure to chemicals. So all of these will determine what will be the symptom they will manifest. But if both are, if you are in a joint family and the child is also refusing, the grandfather is also refusing, and only the mother and father are able to eat that product, 90% it is likely that that product has some toxin in it, and it would benefit everyone if everyone doesn't consume that product. And not only that, if you are able to complain about it, put a complaint about that product to the retailer. Or because there are many retailers in India, that also needs to change. Many retailers do not accept complaints. Many retailers are not ready to accept back products that are contaminated. Many retailers are after a lot of fight with them, will give you refund about it. But the main thing is they are not registering the complaint areas. And if you don't register the complaint areas, don't understand, if you know, if I don't get a backlog, like let's say I have sold a batch of apple juices, and in that apple juice there was a corporate espionage related contamination going on. The retailer didn't take back the product, so the nothing went back to the manufacturer doesn't. There is 3 retailers he has sold that apple juice to, and out of the 3 retailers, one retailer didn't even take back the product. So he's thinking, oh, this retailer is not taking back my product is good. Another retailer took back the product, but there is no step with that retailer to get it back to the manufacturer. So again, the manufacturer is ignorant that something is wrong with the product. There's a third retailer, they did take back the product, they refunded the customer also, but they again don't have any policies on how to address it with the new batch, because this needs to be done. You have to address it with the manufacturer that your product is crappy. We have had customer complaints, not only customer complaints, now the one who is feeling the pinch of it, like they have given money also away as a refund, that company at least has set up the steps that I have felt the pinch now of buying a bad quality product. So next time I negotiated with the retailer, I will negotiate a better deal where clean products will come to me. That company has at least set up some steps of less failure now in the future. Whereas the retailer who didn't accept back the product, he has set up no step though. So the next step for that retailer might be that they might go out of business eventually, if enough customers are pissed off that this retailer never accepts any returns, never gives back any refunds, doesn't want to accept returns and refunds. Why will I buy from them? I quit. There are 3-4 different online delivery apps that I use. The retailer who is not going to give many refunds, there is no place for them to even register a complaint that, like, I found paint material in some ice creams that they were selling. There's no place where I can complain about that product. I can go to the manufacturing website and complain about it. I haven't done it. There are many ways to complain also. But can you see the level at which I'm operating right now? How many places can I complain? So there I didn't complain at that time. I can, but today I got this insight, so maybe I will go to the manufacturer's website and complain about it if the manufacturer has a website. Again, does the manufacturer have a website? If the manufacturer has a website, I can complain in the manufacturer's website. Or if that is also not there, I can again create a video like this about the 10 companies where in their products I have not mentioned any single company right now in most of my videos, simply because I do not want to go through that challenge. There's enough challenges I'm going through. That will be a added thing on my plate to address directly any manufacturer that is doing a lot of manufacturing related problems. And there are multiple companies that are doing it. So the number of companies I have detected that are doing it are so large in number that I can create a list and do a post like how Julian and Assange started, creating WikiLeaks about this is like this, this is like this, this is like this. I will have to do something anonymous like that, in fact, or anyone else who has detected this, they should do anonymous thing, because this is something globally people have to become aware. Like with those WikiLeaks, there was something that was globally needed to be addressed. This is also something that globally needs to be addressed. So you need to be globally aware what brand is contaminated. If you yourself don't have the faculty to understand it, or if you're not even listening to your weakest family member, smallest family member, a pet in your family, or your grandparents, someone in your family who's telling this is a nasty product, you are living in denial because I can't smell it, I can't see it, I can't understand it, it's not harming me, that means it is not harming another. Many people assume that, when as the reality is, while it is currently your body is at a status where it is not harming you, if indeed that product was harmful, in the future after multiple consumptions of it, you might see the harm in the body of a person who is at a robustly built structure. Where someone who is at a weaker structure, someone who's smaller in size, differently built, has some other health challenges going on with them, in their body the harm is just showing up sooner. That doesn't mean that the harm is non-existent. It's just showing up sooner in certain body types, certain size types, certain age types, and certain gender types first than the other. So I hope this was meaningful, insightful. Anyone wants to drop a question, comment about what I discussed here, wants to collaborate with me, look into the description section of my page to connect with me, or put a comment here about anything that you find you want some more clarity about. And thank you very much. Have a great day.